Hello, this is Yarrow, and welcome to another episode of the Yarrow podcast. I hope you're having a great week. I just clicked send on a newsletter to my subscriber list, giving everyone a copy of my new guide, my 2026 content marketing strategy, and the AI stack, all the AI tools that I'm using the most to do content marketing. If you're not on my newsletter or you didn't see it on my social feeds, you can get a copy for free at insidegrowth.com/content. It's a short guide, mostly just listing the tools I'm using right now and how I'm using them. And I want to touch upon one distinction that I do cover in the guide that is very relevant for today and not wasn't a part of what we used to do with content marketing. So it's basically new in the last year or so, thanks to ChatGPT and Gemini and all the AI-based searching people are doing now. Which is becoming, a very relevant source of traffic as a content marketer to go along with the usual Google. So what is that distinction? In the past, my formula for writing content for search and just as a general formula for great content for my website, it was my blog back in the day. I called this pillar content, pillar articles, pillar posts. It was a phrase that caught on in the search engine optimization world in the very very early days as a concept. And it's still the same. We all have to write pillar content designed to get Google search results. Back then, my formula was tell a story, which is about engaging the human as well. Use that story to then introduce some steps or some practical outcomes to take away and maybe replicate what I did or what I told in the story. And then a call to action, which is usually join my email newsletter to get some kind of resource that'll continue to help you with the next steps. Bearing in mind that was very much a sort of teaching formula for people who are doing something that requires them teaching. So it could be a coach, a trainer, any kind of content marketing that's about education on any kind of topic, but you do want to, build that relationship around helping them to do something through education. Now, today, there's a little difference with that. AI search does not care about the story. They want the answer to the question. So if you go to Claude, for example, and I do this, when I create pillar posts, pillar articles for a current project, I will always ask Claude to structure this to rank well in AI search. And I say, like Gemini, like ChatGPT, like Claude. I always laugh a little bit telling Claude to produce an article to rank better in Claude because it does feel a little bit, ironic. But that is very much a part of content marketing workflows today. And when AI does produce content designed for AI, you will notice there are summaries. Always at the very start of the article, it's like, here's the answer to the question you're asking if you're viewing this article. Because AI wants to make sure that AI sees the answer to the question first, and then the rest of the article gives you basically the longer story about the answer to that question. So instead of starting with the story, it starts with the answer. Basically, it's almost like an FAQ, little quick question, answer, and then let's tell you the longer story. Now, that is purely a structural thing. Would I call that good writing? Maybe. It definitely appeals to people who have short attention spans, which is frankly everyone. Probably means the whole article won't be won't be read. They'll just read the FAQ at the start and then walk away. Also is fraught with risk because maybe the answer is incorrect or maybe the answer requires some kind of nuance. And if you don't read the whole article, you don't get the nuance. But that's the world we live in today. And if you are using a tool like Claude to write, which I will say, as I put in my guide, is the best writing tool by far. And if you're wondering why, I remember I used to use ChatGPT and I compare it to Claude and Gemini as a writing tool for scripts that I was putting together. And I always just loved the Claude style. And I recently learned that Claude was basically built on millions and millions of books, like proper books, classics. So it has a great structure for good writing. Now, there was a legal case around this, basically, a bit dodgy about how it got all those books into the large language model. But at the end of the day, that's why Claude is such a great writer. So I've always used Claude for my writing. But I want to distinguish two forms of writing to kind of wrap up this audio. There's your pillar articles, which is designed to just make sure your website has articles that hit the keywords and also hit the AI searches for targeting the customer you want to attract to your business. Now that's step one of content marketing for search. There's a lot more you have to do, but if you don't have anything in your website, obviously, you're never going to rank. With that kind of content, as I said, there's an FAQ style to it. There's all these little more structural elements you aim to include, and thankfully, Claude can do that for you if you just ask it. Now, I always like to include something that makes it unique, because since everyone can ask Claude to do the same thing, if you have any kind of mainstream topics you're trying to write about, you're just going to be copying what everyone else is writing. So I always tell Claude, listen, we need to make this unique. We need to tell a story from one of our clients' case studies, or maybe something from my own life. Let's put some research into this, kind of combine various elements so that when I'm producing AI content, at least there's a bit of art that's gone into how it's put together and what's in it, and something unique as well, which makes it unique. That's ultimately the goal. It's not going to be exactly the same as another piece of AI content, and it'll be more relevant, at least for my industry and my business in particular and my customers. Then there's the other type of content I want to cover that, for example, this audio is about. So Patrick AI, one of the other tools I mentioned in the guide, once again, you can get that at insidegrowth.com/content. So with Patrick, I'm talking to you now, and I'm recording an audio that's super personal, unique, just about me. This is not AI generated content, even though it is going to be generated by AI in terms of taking my voice and turning it into an article. And that article is not exactly like completely formatted for AI search exactly, but it is formatted to be extremely unique because the source content's unique. The stories I'm telling you here is unique, but then also formatted to be relevant for search. So if you're talking about, like, let's say you got onto Patrick and you said, here are my top 5 tools I use to do something, something, something. That's going to help you show up in AI-based search because you're doing a list. AI search loves those lists, those posts that are comparing things or giving top 10 recommendations. So that's an example of where you can create something completely original from your voice and experience, yet still format for something that AI likes. And of course, Google likes too, assuming you start to build some authority, for that content. But what I love about using Patrick, it is unique and it's storytelling and it's experience direct from me, but then I get something that's basically ready to go in terms of written text after speaking. And this, as you listen to it, and as you listen to all of the Yarrow podcasts, it's not exactly like perfectly flowing writing that I'm speaking. I mean, no one does that. Everyone who speaks, it's a little rambling. It's longer than you'd write it. I always laugh when I try and use the app Whisperflow, another tool I mentioned in the guide, and I want to write a message, and I'm trying to be as succinct in my words that I speak them as I am when I write them. I never can do it. I have to almost talk like a robot and do these very short sentences to replicate the way I type. And that's, I think, just makes sense because you're slower with your fingers. You want to be succinct, get the message across. But when you use your words, you tend to ramble a bit more. So that's why I do like about Patrick. It takes my rambling and makes it into a cohesive article that I would be and have been willing to share on social media and in my newsletter and in blog posts and content. And I love the combination of structured pillar articles and unique storytelling articles. So by combining what I produce with Claude and what I produce with Patrick, I get the best of both worlds. Great content for search, great content for human beings, original storytelling, and so on. So I'm going to end it there. If you're interested in all these tools I'm talking about and want to see the other tools that I'm using more commonly right now, it is a guide for beginners. I'm not getting super technical. This is really just about creating content, doing your content marketing. You can get that guide at insidegrowth.com/content. And that's it. This has been the Yarrow podcast. I look forward to speaking to you again, probably tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.